Well, hi guys. This is Fatale.
And this is Noir.
And we are Fatale Noir. And we thought that we'd start doing a series now that it's getting close to Halloween and let you know what our top 5 picks of some of our favorite horror movies and different genres were going to be. And my pick for this week is going to be like my top 5 favorite movies to get you in the Halloween spirit.
And my top 5 for this week is going to be my top 5 scariest movies of all time.
Alright, well I guess to get you started, I'll start you with my number 5 pick for movies to get you into the Halloween spirit. Number 5 is going to be Sleepy Hollow. It's basically an American fairy tale. It's one I'm sure most of you out there have either seen the Disney version, if not the Johnny Depp version I'm talking about. It's a Halloween classic and it stars the very likable Johnny Depp.
I agree.
One of my favorite actors, Christopher Walken, and the beautiful Christina Ricci. And in this movie, she really does look like an American princess who's been thrown into a horror story. If nothing else, the stark landscape will really make you feel like it's time to pull out your pumpkins and start carving your jack-o'-lantern. Andy, what's your number 5 pick?
My number 5 pick for the scariest horror movie would have to be the modern day horror movie, The Strangers. And the reason I picked The Strangers was because I thought of it being terrifying that these people could come into your home and basically play with you, taunt you, and that itself being torture. And at the very end, when the couple asked, well, why are you doing this to us? The only answer these people gave them was, because you were home. That right there is what frightened me the most in this movie. And I always say the monsters that scare me the most are the ones that live right next door to me. So that right there is the reason I think The Strangers gives you that uneasy feeling when you leave from watching it. So that is my number 5. And I'd like to hear your number 4 for Halloween movies.
My number 4 pick to get you into the Halloween spirit is going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie is, I mean, every Halloween you go to these haunted attractions and what is the last thing you see? The guy with the chainsaw. And I don't think that there's a better movie out there to get you prepared to meet that guy. Also, I really have to admit that this is a very well written and directed story and doesn't get the credit it deserves in that aspect. Because believe it or not, there's very little blood spilled in this movie. You just get this ominous feeling when you watch it and you think you left seeing a blood-soaked movie. And I think that the scene with the dude and the meat hook, every time I just cringe deep inside. So for those reasons, that is my number 4 pick for movies that you've got to watch around Halloween.
I have to agree with you. My number 4 pick for scariest movie of all time is also the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love this film. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's documentary style in the sense of they want you to think it really happened, and this is the footage that they found almost when they went to this home. And the fact that where I'm from, and also her, like, we're from very small towns actually, and I remember watching this movie thinking, you know, our neighbors that are a couple of miles away, they might be doing this. Because I know they slaughter their own hogs. We
had a pig farm down there where I live too.
So it really, really frightened me, and the fact that this was something that was real to me. I was waiting for a man to come out of the woods with a chainsaw and come and get me. And to this day, like she was saying, I do not like the last room you go into in a haunted house is the chainsaw room. You can smell that chainsaw oil and it just gets the hair
every time
on the back of your neck just to stand up. But I've worked with Gunnar, one of the sweetest men I've ever met. So Leatherface, you're all good in my books. Your number 3?
Number 3 is going to be Lost Boys. Not only is this one of my top favorite movies of all time, it's definitely a movie that you have to watch around Halloween. It's perfect for having in the backdrop while you're, you know, giving the trick-or-treaters their candy and you're getting ready for Halloween parties, because it really is kind of safe for the whole family. It's barely a horror, let's be honest, it's barely a horror movie. It's not really scary, but it really gets you in that spirit. And I think the reason why it's got to be the soundtrack to that movie. When you sit and think about it, the soundtrack to that movie makes that movie. But beyond that, it's really just, it's got that good mix of humor in it. The last line in that movie gets me every time. And I gotta be honest, I'm a little jealous of the fashion they have in that movie, the 80s. The Star, she's got those jackets with the fringe. I think I'm gonna start bringing back.
You should bring that back.
I'm gonna be bringing that back. I'm gonna dress just like Star from now on.
One of the best lines in that movie, "Death by stereo."
No, I've got to say that my favorite is the very end when the grandpa walks in. He saves the day.
He never liked
all the damn vampires, and he goes and gets a beer, and I'm like, oh, I wish that was my grandpa. Anyways, Andy, what is your next pick?
My number 3 comes to me from my very good friend. I'm going to give him a shout out. He reminded me of this movie, and I have to agree with him. It's The Last House on the Left. This was Wes Craven's first real movie that got the attention of the world. It was so underground, and I think it's one of the most amazing pieces of horror cinema. Because right when you start to watch it and that disclaimer comes on, don't watch this movie, don't watch this movie, over and over again. Right there, you know you're about to watch something that's going to disturb you. And again, to me, it was almost like watching, again, like a documentary, like you were watching real life, like it was in real time, what these girls went through. And there's some of the most brutal rape scenes in this movie, and just these torture scenes, and then the death scenes at the end are some of the greatest things I've ever seen. What that mother does to one of the guys is phenomenal, and I was so upset that they took that out of the remake. And again, I just think it's one of the best pieces that Wes Craven's ever done. I'm not knocking Nightmare on Elm Street because I love Freddy, but this movie really, I think, changed the way people looked at horror. And again, the scarier monsters are the ones that live right next door to you. So number 3 for me is The Last House on the Left.
It's a great movie, but as you all know, that some of my favorite movies are actually ones that come more from the supernatural realm. I'm not so much afraid of another person, I'm more afraid of what I don't know. And number 2 pick for serious movies to watch around Halloween is going to be Gothica. And anyone who's heard interviews with me in the past knows that I really like this movie, and the portrayal by Halle Berry is amazing in this movie. There's also Morton Downey Jr. in this movie. He does an amazing job. Penelope Cruz is in this movie. So it's got an all-star cast to begin with. You know it's going to be a great movie. But beyond that, I think it's the lighting and the sets in this movie that really is going to put you in the mood for Halloween. And that's why I picked it. I wouldn't necessarily pick this for a top, 5 favorite horror movies or best or scary or any of that, but if we're doing a list on movies that really are going to get you in the mood for Halloween, I'm definitely going to put Gothica on there because it's got the mood in this movie is really what I'm more talking about, and it's really going to get you in that mindset of it's Halloween.
I do like that movie.
It is, it's really good. What's your next pick, Andy?
My number 2 scariest movie of all time, I'm going with The Omen. The Omen, when I was small and I watched it for the first time, scared me so bad that I rushed to the bathroom and immediately started separating my hair because I was looking for 666 on my name. I swore to my parents I thought I was the Antichrist. To them, I probably was. But, children in horror movies, creepy.
Always creepy.
Always creepy.
Always creepy.
And this little boy, when he's like in his mother's arms and you see the camera and all you see is his face on her shoulder and he just smiles when something evil happens, it just gives you the chills. I think right there, when the instant he becomes a young boy from a baby, you can tell that instant when he knows who he is, it's one of the creepiest moments. And that whole time I'm yelling, "Don't kill Gregory Peck!" I love Gregory Peck. I think he's one of the most amazing actors that we have ever had, and he always reminds me of my dad. So, again, maybe that's why I thought I was the Antichrist. But definitely The Omen, I think, is one of the scariest movies out there. It's so realistic, and it just, again, kids are creepy in horror movies. So I'd like to ask, drum roll, give me your number 1 movie to get people in the Halloween spirit.
My number 1 movie to get people in the Halloween spirit is going to be The Shining. The Shining is arguably one of the best horror movies ever made. And I actually fought in my head about putting it in a, in this like bracket with Halloween movies, because to me it is really more of a winter movie because you've got all the snow and they're isolated. But just because it is such a great movie, I think it is something you need to watch around Halloween. Every time I watch that movie, I feel isolated just like them. I can be in a room with people and I feel like we're all going to be trapped in
and cold.
And cold. You feel cold when you watch it. Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson, by the way, is amazing in this movie. When I think of myself, I usually play. I play the bad guy a lot. My fans would know that. And I kind of try to look at Jack Nicholson and see how he does it, because he plays crazy so well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, in this movie, a lot of his movies.
He
does.
does.
An amazing actor.
And so he does such a good job of playing crazy. You really believe it. And believe it or not, Stephen King originally did not want him. They wanted John Lithgow, is that how you say his name? John Lithgow to play that part. I can't imagine that. Can't imagine that. So, and I've got to say that the Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick together made this movie perfect. I really wish that they had worked together on more films, because Stephen King's a great author, but some of his movies are not as great as his works, literary works. So, anyways, that's my number one pick, and I hope you guys will pick that one up this Halloween. Andy, we're waiting with bated breath. What is your number one scariest movie of all time?
I think my number one scariest movie of all time will probably be, a lot of our viewers will agree, The Exorcist. This movie will always be the most classic movie for anyone who loves horror movies, because it changed everything. It made me scared of priests. Now, every time I see a priest, I think there's an exorcism going on somewhere.
I'm scared of priests too, actually.
And just, great, eerie, the fact that you had this normal child who overnight just becomes the devil. And again, I think this, some people fainted in the theaters and had to be carried out.
Wow, I didn't know
had
that.
like heart attacks and stuff, and this was in the theater because no one had seen anything like this. So it definitely put that as my number one scariest movie of all time. And again, it can also put you in that Halloween mood, because once you hear those tubular bells, that music.
Yeah.
You see that staircase in Georgetown, and when I went to Georgetown, I had to go visit those, because I was like, it's legendary. So if you're in DC area, go and look at them. So that is my number one movie as far as the scariest of my picks. So now we would like to talk about our movie for a second. Again, we are Fatale Noir Productions. And our first full-length movie we're doing actually is called Holy Ground. And this movie is our baby, and I think we brought a lot of elements of all of our favorite horror movies into this. We have zombies.
Ghost rape.
Which is a must. We have witches.
Demon possession.
We have sacrilegious tendencies with possession. We have
zombies.
I already said the zombies.
Oh, right. Haunted castles.
You mean cabins?
Yeah, that too. I don't know. I've just been on production since day one. I don't know what we're making.
It's got elements of everything that you can think of, because what we are doing, we're trying to make our tribute to Evil Dead. And
kind of Blair Witch. It's kind of a mix of those two movies.
I will agree with that. And we're both huge fans of the Evil Dead movie series.
Sam Raimi is amazing. He's my favorite director.
And I'm in love with Bruce Campbell, of course. And to bring that feel of that independent filmmaking that Sam Raimi had, and just be over the top, somewhat be slapstick comedy, to you're still scared, to special effects being limited to us doing them than just CGI.
I don't like CGI. Everything we do in this movie, when I get hit a little,
Don't tell the story.
Give them a little information, though. We'll give them a little, I get ran over by a car. I really got ran over by the car.
Yes.
I got hit by a car. I took a black eye for you guys, just so you know.
And
Did you just say that you hit me?
No, I said, look at this smile and everything. I didn't hit her. But I really think you'll really enjoy this.